Star Wars collectors, and welcome to another Bossk Bounty video, and welcome to episode 185 of our Bossk Bounty. This is the weekly Q&A series that drops every Sunday, where I take your questions from the comment section below and do my best to answer them. So if you do have a question for next week's episode and you want to be featured in the video, be sure to leave that question in the comments of this video, and as I said, hopefully you'll be featured next week. We have a bunch of great questions once again this week, and I just want to say a huge thank you to everybody that does submit a question and also watches the videos and hits the like button and all that kind of thing, because it all helps and it just keeps this series going. When I've got lots of questions to choose from, can't fit them all in, but please don't let that deter you. I always seem to pick them up eventually. So just want to say a big thank you to everybody that does submit a question. And before we do get onto this week's questions, I just wanted to open this. So this was received to my PO box, which is Bossk Bounty, PO Box 2154, Worthing, BN12 9EW, United Kingdom. It's always awesome to receive things in the mail to my PO box. It doesn't have to be a gift or anything like that. Even just a letter or whatever is always great to receive. So let's open this and see what's inside. Okay, so the contents are there, and we do have a note that goes with it. It says, Tim, I just want to send you a gift of thank you for all you do for the Star Wars community. I thought this might be a nice addition to your Bossk collection, as you don't see many items with this version of Bossk. That's intriguing. I also include a couple of VC 231 Stormtroopers for Little Bossk. Walmart shipping damage included, so you can get the full American experience. The cards aren't as bad as others I received, but they are definitely openers. But you can never have too many Stormtroopers. Thanks again, Tony J. I really do appreciate it, Tony. That is a really nice thought, so thank you so much, and can't wait to open these gifts. Let's take a look. So these are the two figures, so we know what they are. Let's just open this. I'm very intrigued to know what this is. Nicely packaged in bubble wrap as always. It's a collector, of course. Oh wow, okay, this is a fig pin, and this is of the Clone Wars Bossk. So let me just try and get that in the light a little bit for you. That is awesome. Thank you so much, Tony. That's great. I don't think I'm going to take it out of that little packaging. I think I'm just going to display it with the rest of my Bossk items. People that follow this channel will know that, obviously, the name and everything, but I am a Bossk focus collector as well. I collect all things Bossk, and I haven't got this. It's even got a little stand in there, so that's awesome. Thank you so much, Tony. I really do appreciate that, buddy. And Little Bossk isn't here right now to open these, and thank you, but let's just open these because we know what they are. You said that what they are in the letter. We'll just open the one for now. Yeah, those cards aren't too... yeah, we've got a bit of a crease down there. But as you say, Tony, you can never have enough Stormtroopers. And I'm sure my son is going to like these to continue with his army. He has, you know, a few Stormtroopers and Scout Troopers. He loves Return of the Jedi, loves the Battle of Endor. So these are going to go great. So I really appreciate it, Tony. I really, really do. Thank you so much. You know, the generosity of my subscribers never goes unnoticed with me. So thank you so much, Tony. Really appreciate it, buddy. And Little Bossk has two of those, which is great. Okay then, so thanks to Tony for those awesome gifts. Now let's get on to the first question of the week. Cadillac Avenger says, hi BB, still loving the videos, and the throne room looks fantastic. Question for next week. 1. Are the Hasbro Pulse releases, like the pending Jabba release, New Hope Retro Wave 2 box set, exclusive, meaning they won't be released elsewhere? I noticed a lot of Hasbro Pulse pre-orders are sold out very quickly and don't want to miss out. 2. Given we have vintage collection reissues of The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi figures, is there any reason we haven't seen a New Hope vintage collection figures reissued? I only started collecting last year and I've missed a lot of the old releases, some of which are extortionate on the second-hand market. So to answer your first question, yes, things that tend to be Pulse exclusive are exclusive to Pulse, except for they are occasionally available on Shop Disney as well. They often share that exclusivity. I know the Retro collection, for example, is often on both. I'm not too sure about the Jabba set, unfortunately. That might be Pulse exclusive only, very much like the Throne Room set was as well. In terms of your second question, and this is an interesting one that I wanted to get into a little bit because it did make me think, your question, in that you're right, the reissues that we've had primarily have been from The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. These are the reissues that they've done from the Vintage Collection 1.0 from 2010 to 2012. And it got me thinking, why haven't they done anything from Star Wars? And I think the hard truth of the matter is that the figures that are on the Star Wars Chase or from A New Hope aren't really good enough to be reissued. I mean, if you look at Grand Moff Tarkin there, we now have the new Imperial sculpt. there is no reason to reissue that figure, you know, that particular figure on that card back. This Han Solo is very old. You know, we're going to have to wait for them to do a brand new Han Solo from A New Hope before they even sort of think about doing a Yavin ceremony one. You've got the Luke Death Star escape figure, not good enough for reissue. You've got the Sand Trooper using the old Stormtrooper sculpt, and the list goes on, quite frankly. If you look at the whole of the Star Wars figures from TVC 1.0, very, very few of them are, you know, good enough to be reissued. It doesn't help with the fact that we are missing the new heroes from TVC 1.0 as well. They came out back in the original trilogy collection with Ben Kenobi, Luke Skywalker, Leia, and Han Solo. And those figures, again, we're all campaigning for making the mains. We need those figures, you know, updated to today's standards. So I think that's what it is. The figures from Star Wars or Star Wars A New Hope, the ones on the Star Wars Chase from the Vintage Collection 1.0 era just aren't good enough in terms of the quality of the figures to be reissued. Doug Stevens says, hey BB, your throne room looks excellent. Question for next week, when will we get a TVC blurg? Unfortunately, Doug, I want to say never now, because it just doesn't seem likely, does it, that we're going to be getting a blurg anytime soon in the Vintage Collection. You know, it's not the answer that I want to give, but I just don't think it's on their radar. Joey Pratt 6747 says, great vid as always. Question for next week. In several of the Q&As from SDCC, Chris revealed that the upcoming 8D8 figure only has 8 points of articulation. He claimed that the limbs are too thin for the articulation. We know this isn't true because of previous releases like IG-11 and BGJ38 from 2009. 8D8 should at least have elbow articulation. Do you think TVC figures with limited articulation are acceptable in the line? And do you think there's still time for Hasbro team to revisit 8D8 and add more articulation? Thanks for all you do. So the first part of your question there is, do I think all TVC figures should be fully articulated? And I think it's a figure by figure basis. For example, an Imperial Dignitary, to get that guy out on the line, he doesn't need the same level of articulation as like a Jedi or a Trooper, for example. In terms of 8D8, you are absolutely right. He definitely needs the elbows. He obviously uses that torture contraption in the Jabba's dungeon. We need to have articulation on 8D8, really, don't we? And unfortunately, I'm with you on that. I don't think his limbs are too thin. If you look at IG-11, as you've mentioned, they work absolutely fine. And I would even suggest that those limbs are thinner than the 8D8 figure. So, yeah, I'm not really too sure why that was answered in that way. Is it too late to get it changed? I really don't know where they are at in the production run of that. I know a lot of other people have mentioned it and they have backtracked on things before. I'm guessing it might be too late for that one, you know, but it is a shame because, as you say, you know, they could have reissued that figure in like a Jabba's Dungeon playset or something, you know, got 2 uses out of the figure, and then they could have had him using that, you know, contraption thing where he's torturing the droids and what have you. So, yeah. It's disappointing, man. It really is. SC Art 5408 says, great episode. I have a question for next week. Do you feel as if the face printing on TVC figures has gotten worse over the past few years? I've recently got the new Han Solo. The sculpt is great, but the face printing seems to be much lower quality than figures from 2019. I'm unsure if the Black Series is facing a similar issue. Thanks again, Bossk. I've got to disagree with you, man. I really do, because I think one area that they have excelled in recent times, especially in the last year or so, is on the face painting side of things. I mean, if you take this Andor figure, for example, you know, sometimes I just think it looks unbelievable. The recent Boba Fett's that we've got, the clones, there's just so many that I can think of now which have got unbelievably good face printing technology. There may be the odd occasion where one isn't up to standard. Maybe the Han Solo is one of those. I don't really know. I thought it was pretty good. I thought that one, it was more the sculpt that was off, to be honest. But yeah, I've got to disagree, man. I think in the last 2 years we've had some of the best figures in terms of the face printing. You think of even like figures like Reva from the Obi-Wan series. You know, unbelievable likeness. Org5055 says, hi BB, first time question for next week. Is there a video of a 3.75 action figures being made? If not, think there should be, as it would be interesting to see them being produced. Keep up the excellent work that you do. Cheers, mate. So I had a quick search on YouTube. If you search for how action figures are made, there's a pretty good video which involves like ZBrush, which is a computer program that the designers use to sculpt the figures, and it talks about, you know, how times have changed, how they used to use like wax and clay models and now they can do it all on computers. I struggle to find a video where there's actual footage of the figures being made in the factory, you know, on the factory line. But still, that video that I mentioned, if you just search on YouTube, it's one of the top videos that comes up. That explains a lot. Really, really good video. Wookiees a Squatch, I think that says. Question for next week. Are figure mail-away offers dead forever? We haven't had one in a long time. I think the prototype Boba Fett was the last one. So yeah, this is what you're talking about here. The limited edition Boba Fett prototype armor mail-away. I've got to say, yes, I do think these are dead now. I think that was really more of like a retail thing. So when these things were hanging on the pegs in every shop going, then obviously it's a thing, a marketing campaign to try and make you buy more of them. Unfortunately now, you know, everything is bought online. I don't really think there's any need for them to do it anymore. That's just my opinion. I think that's the reason for it. John Paul Loner says, question for next week. Given that the team at Hasbro has said she's still an option and that they're waiting for 2024 to reveal VC300, what are the odds that the Huttslayer Leia will be released to coincide with the deluxe Jabba next year? I think Leia, Jabba's prisoner, would make a fine VC300. Cheers and thanks for the fun content. I think you're right. The character of Princess Leia would make a great VC300. There is no doubt about that. The princess of Star Wars or whatever. I've got to sort of ask though, you know, people in the comments section or whatever, you know, what is it about getting this figure like remade or redone? Is it just the fact that, you know, potentially people think that she'll never get redone? Is it because that the TVC 1.0 version of this one is extremely expensive on the secondary market and impossible to get, and you know, new collectors want the you know, the chance to get her? Because I'm sort of wondering what else they could do to this figure. Of course they could improve on the head sculpt, for example, on this one. They could make that a little bit better in terms of the likeness. But in terms of the figure, I think it really does everything it needs to do. You know, the soft goods are good, it looks good, sat on Jabba's throne. I don't really sort of think this one needs to be sort of overhauled particularly. So is it just the fact that she is expensive on the secondary market that you would want her reissued? And if she was reissued, then I doubt she'd get a new VC number anyway. So are there people out there that just want a new head-to-toe Huttslayer or Slave Leia figure? I'm not too sure why people would want that. You know, at the end of the day, it will take up tooling dollars for a figure that essentially we've already got. So is it just a case of, you know, the people that haven't managed to pick her up still want this figure? P Diddy 82 says, question for next week, kind of a two-part question. With the release of the Boba Fett's throne room, I find myself wondering why they branded it a Book of Boba Fett and not Return of the Jedi. Why do you think they did this? Surely a Jabba's throne room with Return of the Jedi logo and even a Jabba thrown in would have done even better sales wise. Second part to this question is, as this set is the Book of Boba Fett, do you think Hasbro branded it this way as they intend to give us more characters from the Book of Boba Fett, 8D8, Boba's Gamorreans, or dare we even hope for a Boba, Rancor, or the twins? Thanks. I personally think that they were directed by Lucasfilm on this one. I really do. You know, I think they have these conversations with Lucasfilm, and Lucasfilm wanted to push the Book of Boba Fett at the time. Hasbro probably always thought in their mind that they could do an add-on perhaps to change it up to Jabba's and get more sales that way. Of course, I'm with you. I think if it was a Jabba's throne room playset, it probably would have sold more. In fact, I'm certain it would have done. But I think at the time, Lucasfilm probably wanted to really push the Book of Boba Fett, and I think that's why it came in that packaging. I can't really think of any other reason why. You know, I certainly think even Hasbro themselves sitting around a table were probably thinking, don't you really think this should be Return of the Jedi? Trace Green 9565 says, hey BB, question for next week. What do you think the next resculpt or newly tooled Empire Strikes Back figures could be on the bracket? I'm really hoping for some Ugnaughts, Cloud Car Pilots, and even a Snowtrooper. So yeah, it's going to be interesting, the March Madness next year, because a lot of the figures that people wanted, Rebels figures and Dooku and Thrawn and people like that, are all being done now. So those won't be able to be voted for again. You're talking about Empire Strikes Back figures there. The Snowtrooper is always high up on the list as far as I'm concerned. It definitely is on my top 25 anyway. I think there's plenty that they could do from ESB. You've mentioned a few there. And I know I'll probably get sort of shot down for this, but I actually think the Bespin Luke Skywalker, that's from 2010. It's nearly 14 years old. And although we've got plenty of Lukes and we don't want figures that we've already got and things like that, I honestly think that that figure isn't good enough anymore for the vintage collection. And when you've got, you know, the standard of figures that you're getting now, just imagine how good they could make a Bespin Luke Skywalker. I think the head sculpt on it is pretty poor, it's got to be said. So maybe they could really improve that figure and, you know, give it all of the updated articulation and all that kind of thing. But that's just me. You know, sometimes I look at these core characters and I just want them to be as good as they possibly can be. Rhett Roberts says, thank you for another great video as always. My question for next week, besides the Ahsoka Wednesdays, when do you think we'll be getting more TVC reveals? And what do you think they'll be, and or what do you want them to be? With so many Jabba's Palace figures and playsets, and you mentioned they might be able to use Bib for the Rancor Keeper. Can we expect a Rancor with the Keeper? Oh, second part of your question there, I don't think we can really. I would really love it if that was the case, but I think they might be done with the 40th anniversary of Return of the Jedi now, personally. That's what I think anyway. I think everything's going to be now geared towards the Ahsoka show. And yes, I think they will be doing some kind of Ahsoka Wednesday, bring home the bounty kind of campaign around the series as it goes on. It won't just be Hasbro, it will be, you know, Funko Pops and t-shirts and mugs, all those kinds of things that Lucasfilm pushed together out on a certain day, and, you know, Hasbro figures, TVC Black Series will just be a small part of that. So I'm pretty sure that we can expect that. We know that there's 4 or 5 mainline Ahsoka figures to be revealed. Some of them have been leaked on the back of cards at SDCC, so we know what they are, but there's still a couple that we don't. And yeah, those I believe will be revealed then. Apart from that, you've got PulseCon in September, I think, is coming out as well, where more stuff will be revealed there. So that's something to look forward to. Citadeli says, love the Sunday shows. Why do you think they haven't released Peli Motto from Mando and Boba? She's been a key player across many episodes. I think she could be a cool deluxe, packed with a variety of her droids to ensure she's not a peg warmer. Her outfit is also similar to the Asian girl from sequel trilogy. What do you think? This is why I have Rose Tico here, because many have said that potentially, you know, Peli Motto could be made using this figure. You know, regardless of the character, this figure actually isn't a bad figure. It's got most of the modern articulation that you're going to want to need for this kind of figure. Peli Motto, you know, doesn't need to be sort of hugely action orientated, but, you know, needs to have a decent level of articulation. And she's got this kind of like engineer's outfit or whatever, jumpsuit type thing, which is similar to Peli Motto. So, you know, if people were happy not for her to be 100% screen accurate, they could probably repaint this figure and do something with it, maybe. But the reason they probably haven't done it already is for the very reason that you say there, you know, potential peg warmer syndrome. I think for her to be in the line, she will need to be in some kind of pack with pit droids and whatever. Whether they do that is another matter entirely, but we'll have to wait and see. Jennifer H3046 says, hey BB, great episode. Question for next week. What do you think of, and what do you think the likelihood would be of Hasbro releasing a 4-pack of Mandalorians similar to the recent Tusken 4-pack? Now that we have seen the various colours and helmets worn by the many Mandalorians in Mando Season 3, would it be a no-brainer or a mistake? Cheers. I think it'd be a no-brainer, and I'm pretty sure they'll do it at some point. Those 4-packs are absolutely made for a 4-pack of Mandalorians with all different colours. At the end of the day, they love releasing Mandalorians anyway, don't they? Plenty of Boba Fett's and things like that. I could definitely see that happening. Resistance X-Wing Pilot says, hey Bossk, enjoyed the episode. My question for next week is, what TVC 1.0 and the Black Series 3.75 figures would you like to see repacked in TVC? I'm actually super happy to have Finn coming to TVC, even though I'd prefer a new Rise of Skywalker one. And I wouldn't mind seeing the Black Series 3.75 First Order Executioner Trooper in TVC. I do have that figure. He's a pretty cool figure, I must admit. And although I'm not a massive ST fan, I can appreciate that figure. He's a decent figure. I've got a couple in front of you here that I would like to see reissued from the Black Series. I'm not really going to talk about Vintage Collection 1.0 particularly at the moment. I'm just going to focus on the Black Series because, you know, I like talking about the figures that we've never had on a card back before. So Plagueis and Padme would be my 2 picks. 100%. I think he would look awesome on a TVC card back, and she is a no-brainer for me. The figure's a decent one. Use the photo reel on the face, that would be awesome. And they've already done the Anakin, which came out in the 3.75 inch Black Series as well, and he turned out pretty good. So yeah, I would release Padme there from the Geonosis Arena. And Tony J, who was the person that gifted me those awesome figures and fig pin at the start of the video, says, great video as always. Question for next week. Hasbro seems to be getting more and more smaller creatures out. Ice Spiders, Massif, upcoming Lothcat and Salacious that could be repainted as a generic monkey lizard. If a couple more are done, I wonder if they could do a creature pack to help get more variety out there, and it would let them reuse the sculpt for something positive. I imagine the current deluxe boxes could be used to utilise an existing retail option. What are your thoughts on this, and what new small creatures would you like to see added to the line? I think my pick would be a Minok. Minok is a great shout, and you know, creature packs in general is a great shout as well. I personally would really like to see them reissue or resculpt the Jabba's Court Denizens pack with that frog-like creature and the Bomber Monk, because I think anybody that's purchased the Boba Fett's throne room or Jabba's throne room, you know, they might be missing those figures as well. And that particular set on the secondary market, I think it's from 2002 in that like Attack of the Clones packaging, that blue packaging, is really expensive on the secondary market. It's like £100 basically to get that, which is bordering on ridiculous. So that's one that I would think that they could do. A couple of creatures in there for you. But yeah, Minok is a great shout, Tony, 100%. Middle-aged Kiwi man making Star Wars says, Kia ora Tim, great Q&A as always. When you put up the shot of Agent Callas, it reminded me of the awesome giant sideburns I rocked in the early 2000s. My question for next week is, what is your favourite facial hair in Star Wars? Do you prefer Colt's soul patch, Madine's dodgy beard, or are you into the classic Lando Merrick moustache? Bonus question, what is the best facial hair you have had? Cheers. In terms of the best facial hair that I've had, I've never been one for facial hair. I've always been down for like lazy stubble, just because I'm a bit lazy. I may have rocked like lamb chop sideburns back in the sort of early 90s, maybe. Nothing too out of the ordinary though. But in terms of Star Wars facial hair, I think you can't really get away from the fake beard of Obi-Wan in Attack of the Clones, can you? That was pretty awesome. And yeah, and forget Madine's dodgy beard. He has got possibly the worst haircut in all of Star Wars. I mean, is it a wig? Is it a toupee? I don't know, man. It just looked weird. Every time I even watched that when I was a kid, I thought, that just looks weird. But anyway, great question, man. I appreciate it. Alright then guys, that's it for this week's episode. I want to thank everybody for watching as always, and leave your questions for next week's episode in the comments section below. I really do appreciate it. Thank you to my Patreon supporters and channel members for supporting the channel in the way that you do, and for keeping the Discord channel alive. I really do like communicating with you guys on there, engaging with you guys. It's awesome. So thank you so much. Thanks for watching everybody, and we shall see you on the next one.